are going to go ahead and get started. By the way, presentations, the one for you all and the one for the non-publics, are located in the assessment library. You can download them there. They are under the webinar section in the library. All right, we have a lot to cover today, so we're going to try to make it in less than an hour. There are some slides in here that I will just mention as a review that you can come back to later if you need to, or if you need to point your school test coordinators to reference this, I'll point out those slides for you. So a couple things I want to mention about the month-by-month checklist this month. First of all, it has been updated. It includes additions to ACT, ELPT, and LEAP Connect. So if you want to look at that one, it is an updated version. For January, the most important are DTCs coordinating the distribution of LEAP Connect and ELPT materials, so that includes manuals, any PowerPoints that you need to use to train them, including you want to begin to submit in TSDL. So this is super important as we use this for our spring tests. Also, you want to make sure that LEAP Connect test setup is being completed. You can start ordering additional materials this month. Remember, you will get those materials for both LEAP Connect and ELPT in the next week or so. Also, the ELPT secure browser should be installed on all the devices that are going to be used for testing ELPT. In February, we have an Accountability Commission meeting here in the building in Baton Rouge at 1 p.m. Also, making sure that you are working with your 504 and SPED teams to make sure accommodations, forms, are all, and anything that needs to be updated, revised, meetings that need to be had are done in preparation for spring testing. Also, you want testing enrollment in order for WorkKeys accommodated materials online. You have until February 2nd ACT approved accommodations in TAA. Also, the deadline to submit class schedule corrections for LEAP 2025 testers is in February as well. February 16th is the deadline to request reconsideration of ACT approved accommodations. February 19th through the 23rd, you will receive ACT and WorkKeys test materials for initial testing. There's also a Q&A session with ACT in February. There was one scheduled today, but I believe you all got an email from ACT this morning saying that it was canceled and will be rescheduled. Be another one on February 20th. And of course, the window ends for ELPT and LEAP Connect Law 1 on March 16th. All right, moving to accountability, just a couple quick updates here. So the ACT no match list is created to help schools and systems identify your 12th grade students who do not have an ACT score on file with LDOE and who must test in the spring. The only students who are exempted from ACT are students who participate in the alternate assessment. The ACT match list is created to help schools and systems identify 12th graders who do have an ACT score on file with LDOE. These kids can be retested at the expense of the school or school system, but we do have a score for them on record. Corrections to the list should not be updated at this time, so when you receive these files, we don't updates. Additional scores or student updates can be submitted during the normal data certification progress in August. The principals and superintendents for your school systems can access the secure portal at louisianaschools.info. Remember, this is access to data for their school system and or individual schools, and they have the ability to share data with any other staff that's allowed by law. The login accounts for personnel not in PEP as a superintendent or principal cannot be created at this time. Data can be extracted from the system and shared. However, superintendents, charter leaders, and principals should use discretion when sharing this information in the secure reporting system with other employees. There is a Louisiana Principal and Superintendent Secure Reporting System login quick reference guide for instruction on how to access their account. Also, in the spring, OTS is going to roll out a new secure site login mechanism that will allow flexibility in assigning those permissions to other staff within the school systems. All right, jumping to assessments. So the 2018-2019 assessment calendar was released last week. It is pretty much the same schedule as last year. So that is already available. I know a lot of you all are finishing up committee meetings or beginning those as far as your district schedules. So the calendar is posted and available for you to use. It is in the assessment library, and there is a section just called Assessment Calendars, and that's where it's located. This is a section of the PowerPoint where I mentioned these slides are a repeat and can be used for your reference later on. I do want to highlight a couple of them, but again, these slides you have seen multiple times before in other presentations. I just wanted to put this in here as a reminder, and in case you are redelivering this to your school test coordinators, you kind of have it all in one place. So as I mentioned earlier, the Air Secure browser must be installed on any computers used for ELPT. There is information on how to do this in the assessment library and in the ELPT portal. So you want to make sure you're working with your tech team district-wide to ensure that this is installed on the computers that it is needed. There is also a network diagnostic. You are delegating responsibilities to schools to check how this secure browser is working them in that direction. It runs checks for bank checks that are needed to confirm that everything is working correctly on that device. This is just a quick technology coordinators, so if you have something to remind them about, again, you want to have them verify that all devices that are testing meet the tech specs and the document. You also want to make sure that the school's network and internet are properly configured, and then you want to enable the pop-up windows settings on these computers. So if you have not done this, enabled. If you have done it, you need to go and make sure that the pop-up window settings are enabled. That way, when the student is in the test, those functions will work correctly. You'll also notice this if the student or TA is using the OTT and it's not working. It's probably because in the setup document that the tech coordinators used, they might have just missed that enable pop-up windows and microphone settings in the section, so I wanted to pull that out here specifically so you all know. It has been in the guidance, and coordinator should know this, but if you get questions from your schools, that might be one reason why it's not working properly. So again, make sure you're running through the OTTs to make sure everything is good to go for testing. This slide is not new, but just wanted to remind you that the eDirect user guide has been updated, and it does have information for LEAP Connect in there. So if you are training your STCs for LEAP Connect, you can point them to the sections called out in the permission matrix, what's in this guide, and the test setup for how to do that with LEAP Connect. There's also an eDirect presentation if you have new school test coordinators or people who just need a refresher if they haven't done this, especially elementary and middle school since they didn't do fall high school testing. If you need a refresher for them, the PowerPoint that is linked here is to a general what is eDirect, how to log in, what are the functions, what does each tab tell me, if you want to use that for your trainings as well. Assessment technology specs are posted in the assessment library. So these are the tech specs for next school year. Any devices that were used during testing this year will be able to continue to run properly next year. If your district is in the process of strategic planning as far as technology goes or thinking about purchases, they definitely want to refer to this document as they are doing that for future years. The current TSM testing site manager that you all use this year will remain active for 2018-19. You want to make sure that your TSM is set up to automatic updates. So again, tech specs have been released. Anything that worked this year will be able to work next year, and the TSM will remain active for next year as well. So not too much to do on y'all's end, but we wanted to definitely have this out for you all as we know districts are talking about purchasing and planning right now for the next school year. I wanted to remind you all about testing homebound students. So these slides are not new, and there is a document I'm going to show you in a second that you'll be able to be linked to in the assessment library. All of the same things regarding testing homebound students are the same as last year. So if you had a method your district used last year or in the fall, it will still work for the spring for testing as well. Methods for districts and schools to use to test students in the online. A student who is homebound and has been approved process to receive educational services by a certified teacher in their home, that is who we're now. So policy requires that homebound students participate in state. Secure materials must be checked in and out by that homebound test administrator, most likely the homebound teacher. Everything should be administered with the same rules for test security as it would be in a school setting. Options for testing homebound students are, one, you can install both the TSM and Insight, and it can be brought to that testing location. The second way is to install a VPN on the laptop and then bring the laptop to that location. The third way is to use the district's VDI to set for a web-based login to access the district's TSM. The fourth way is to purchase a hosted VDI as a server solution for access. So these are the four ways you can test homebound students. Whatever you all used in the fall and whatever you used last year can be used again this year as well. But again, this is a small population of students, so we might have some districts that haven't done this before, so I just wanted to remind you all of how to do that. Moving on to testing, I wanted to just go over a couple things related to support with investment. So it's that time of year we're about to start rolling into testing for the next couple of months, and so I wanted you to be prepared prior to testing about how to do proper investigations and what is actually required. So if a student's test is voided, so it could be cheating by a student or anybody else, the TA needs to give the school test coordinator a written account of the incident with information including the litho code of answer documents that need to be voided. Then the school test coordinator has a meeting with a committee that has at least the principal, themselves, and the TA, and they are to determine whether the test should be voided. That STC will then complete the void notification form and send it to you, the DTC. Then you all will mark the test invalid online and then send the testing irregularity command that you would have for tech issue happened. It's still ST to you to The first thing is an explanation of the incident in complete detail, a list of all the people that were involved, a description of the secure storage area and the people who had access to it, transcripts of interviews with the principal, STC, TA, and proctor, and then transcripts of interviews with multiple students regarding testing procedures, the layout of the classroom, access to the materials, and access of unauthorized materials. These are some best practices for conducting investigations. So the first thing would be to collect and view all the evidence before you conduct any interviews. So you may want to schedule a plagiarism or answer change analysis viewing by emailing assessment if this is the reason why you're doing an investigation. If you need to review security camera footage, if you need to get oaths of security and confidentiality, the test security and administration training sign-in and materials, any documents you can collect. Then interview TAs, proctors, and students last. So you want to interview all other personnel first, save the TAs, proctors, and students that are in question last. The questions should include general procedures and anything about the incident. You want to make sure you are asking open-ended questions. Limit the yes and no questions. Then you'll interview all individuals who were in the room but not directly involved in the event. So these interviews should be conducted at least twice over multiple days. Again, you want to ask questions about the procedures and about the incident, as many open-ended questions as possible. And the individuals who are being interviewed in this group should not be being investigated. Then you want to interview individuals who are directly involved in the event. So again, this is just best practices. We know some of you have reached out about how do I conduct an investigation, and so we wanted to put this together for you all, as you may have to do this in the future, hopefully not, but these are just general rules of thumb. For off-grade voids, all students, first of all, should take the appropriate grade level or grade span assessment, and the official grade assignments are in CIS. Any student who takes a grade level test lower than their enrolled grade or grade span will have their test voided. So you want to make sure that students are receiving the correct test. I also wanted to remind you about Cavion Test Security Services. Again, we negotiated an agreement with Cavion. They are the nation's leading test security experts, and they provide services on monitoring, investigations, and training. If you want to see their fee schedules or contact them directly, the information on this platform that lets you track the findings in real time. So if you hire them, they will be able to report to you everything that's going on in real time. So that would be through this website called Cavion Core. So if you're interested, again, that information is linked on the previous slide. Reminders for test security for ELPT and lead. Any staff members involved in testing must be trained in test security and administration before testing. Members involved in testing post oath of security and confidentiality forms. Voids need to be entered in eDirect for LeapConnect or tied for ELPT at the end of each week. If you need directions on how to ELPT, the TIDE user guide is. If you need directions on how to void a test for Leap Connect, the user guide is also linked here as well. At the end of each week, testing voids are due, but at the end of the window is when all the testing irregularities are due to assessment at la.gov. All right, moving on to LEAP 2025. So as you all know, this year Louisiana is transitioning to 5-level high school assessments, which include providing an English 1 exam, reporting greater differentiation of performance and allowing high schools to earn recognition for 3 levels of performance rather than 2, allowing consistent measurement of achievement and growth or progress from grades 3 through high school, and maintaining consistency in graduation requirements. This fall or winter, we administer high school assessments, and that consisted of a small population of students. The percent of students meeting grad requirements, meaning they scored approaching basic or better on the 5-level high school LEAP 2025 assessments, remained steady or increased from prior years. High school performance measures will include equal measures for both student growth and student performance on math and ELA initial assessments. So this means high schools will earn credit for how well they are improving student achievement throughout the year rather than just performance. Last week, the CSV data files were posted in eDirect. This week, you'll receive student reports, class rosters, and school reports for the LEAP 2025 high school results. And just as a reminder, you can refer to the 2017-18 high school assessment FAQ document that has our most frequently asked questions about high school assessments. Another update is for our graphing calculator on our math assessments. So the online scientific calculator will remain available, and students can still be provided handheld calculators. The online graphing calculator that is being added is provided by Desmos, which also offers a free online graphing calculator. There will have information in the assessment guides regarding this as well. LEAP and LEAP 360 Algebra and Geometry tests will have a fully functional online graphing calculator available. So that's spring summative tests, practice tests, interim diagnostics will all have this new calculator. It will permanently replace the graphing available. If you go to desmos.com, you can also have teachers and students using this in the classroom to practice with as well. Testing home study students is also in the document I mentioned earlier about homebound document about testing students and non-public students. It's linked here. But these are repeated slides, but as we get closer to testing, I wanted you to be aware of some of these things. So districts and schools are required by state law to provide testing to students in approved home study programs. You all are able to set up your own arrangements, such as an application process, a deadline for applying, anything that you need to have to ensure that material, space, and technology is available for those students. They should be registered in eDirect under the 998 home study site code that's already established for your district. Again, you all create your own process for this, where to test, when to test them. Whatever you've used in the past, you can use again. Just wanted to remind you that you may start having home study parents asking about this as spring testing is approaching. Now, state law does not require testing of students in non-public schools. Students who have a scholarship to a non-public school would be tested at the scholarship school. There is a process for testing non-public school students for districts that choose to test them. So this would mean you would have a participation form completed, you would be a $50 for social studies. Code. For the science field test, just a couple reminders. Must participate in the science field test. Field test guides are available in the assessment guidance library. Last week, there were science field test webinars for teachers that reviewed the new science assessment vision, the shifts in science instruction, the administration of the field test, and the field test design. They were also recorded, and the presentations were also posted in the assessment guidance library. For the LEAP 2025 practice test, again, teacher access is available, and access for students is also available for practice tests. There is the practice test quick start guide that provides you the links to the teacher access versions and the logins and passwords by grade level and content. Linked here, as well as the ELA practice test guidance document, the math guidance document, and the social studies guidance and assessment framework. Again, for grades 3 to 8, teacher access has been available, and it is available for students to use in Insight. All right, jumping into ACT and WorkKeys. These dates were on last month's call as well, but I wanted to remind you of them because ACT testing is coming up. Remember that February 2nd is the big day for ACT, so you want to make sure that you complete all of the tasks listed here before February 2nd. Again, the ACT match and no match lists are going to be available so you can determine which students need to test. The STC will need to request accommodations for students in TAA before February 2nd. You all will need to verify student information and upload additional students before February 2nd. STCs will order WorkKeys accommodation materials before February 2nd. For districts that are using ACT online, you want to make sure that the Proctor Cache software is set up and installed before February 2nd. You want to complete a mock administration for ACT online before February 2nd. So there's a lot of big dates here. ACT, February 2nd. Only 11th graders and 12th graders who have never taken an ACT test will be in PA Next this month. All other testers must be entered. These are the students that you can add now. The process for adding new 11th and 12th graders taking ACT for the first time is different from the process of adding 12th graders that are taking it again. The enroll, unenroll instructions are in the Using PA Next for ACT testing linked on this page. Only request to unenroll a student who has transferred within your district and can be verified in your local information system. Accountability codes will be applied in PA Next after the testing window closes for all other students no longer enrolled at the school. If a new 11th or 12th grader has never taken ACT before, transfers into your district, you will request to enroll the student. It is super important to use the correct 10-digit LSID when making this request. If the ACT which the student is transferring from is known, then you can use that as well. Once ACT sees that the student will be on a new roster, then that student will be dropped from the previous school's roster as long as the 10-digit LSID matches. When an ACT approved accommodation is requested in TAA, there is a PIN number that is issued. That PIN number allows the TAA system to connect to, and this is how accommodations are transferred from TAA to PA Next. If the PIN number is PA Next, then you and the STC can either enter the PIN numbers yourself in the student management section. STCs will need to assign students in TAA who have ACT approved accommodations from a previous test, so either state or national. If a student transfers in and already has a PIN code from a prior administration, that same PIN code. If the accommodations have been requested again. The SDU upload is used to add 12th graders retesting ACT score. If a school only has a few 12th graders, then they can just enter them one at a time in PA Next. Again, that February 2nd date is really important. Only the students in PA Next by February recoded labels on the answer documents. So students who are not in PA Next by the 2nd still need to be added because this is the number that matches the student back to the LISID number for reporting, but that will need to be an answer document for all the students that don't have barcode labels. So again, February 2nd, you want to make sure all students are in PA Next, and that is who will get pre-coded labels. For ACT Online, again, just some reminders. Again, that February 2nd date is important. You want to make sure that configure to make sure online testing is successful for ACT. This is an option for you this year. You can choose to take ACT Online in some of your schools, all of them, or none of them. It is totally up to you all. We are offering this as an option to our districts this year. The steps that need to happen are on this slide. You would just really want to make sure you are working with your technology coordinators to make sure everything is set up. There are also a ton of resources listed here, the site readiness plan, the tech requirements, there's a tech guide for a mock administration. There's a bunch of other things that are really helpful here. Just as a reminder, we wanted to add these this month as well. Again, for WorkKeys, you want to make sure you're using the 10-digit LISID when enrolling students for WorkKeys. You'll need to update the materials quantities for WorkKeys accommodations in PA Next, and you must allow 30 days between tests for remediation. There are some links here for WorkKeys that may be helpful to you as well. All right, moving to ELPT. This is another section that has some repeated slides in here that we added again just for you as a reference or for your STCs. So a lot of these are repeats, but I wanted to add them for you again. So just a review of the key dates for ELPT. The OTT is available now. TAs, students should be using the OTT to make sure that they're familiar with the system. Remember, they can do that mic check. They can do the check with the sound, with the headset. You want to make sure all of that is out of the way prior to testing, and that TAs have experience using it as well. STCs and you all can manage users. That has been available. All students have been uploaded. All users available. Remember, for ELPT, we have additional guides for this. So we have a TAM, a test administration manual like we normally would, but all of the other information you would find in a test coordinator's manual is either in the TAM, the TA user guide, or the TIE user guide. So remember, this is a different system setup, and so we have additional manuals for you to use. Also, you're going to get your materials for your kindergarten and first graders for the writing supplement in the writing section on January 23rd. You will be able to order additional materials in the testing window. And as a reminder, STC The next slides, again, are reviews. So we have TIDE, which is the Test Information Distribution Engine. This is where all the demographic information is, test settings, and managing user accounts for every system is in here. And then we have the test delivery system. So this is what kids use to take the test and what TAs use to administer and monitor students. There are some links and accommodations manual is linked. It is very similar to ours, so if you want to reference that just to refresh yourself on some of those things, you can, but it should feel very familiar to you. As a reminder, test administrators cannot translate, and English learner accommodations are not allowed because this is an English language proficiency test. As a reminder, each user in TIDE, so you're either the district test coordinator or a test administrator, and they are associated with permissions that give you access to certain features within TIDE. Again, this is very much aligned to eDirect. We wanted to make this as much of a seamless transition as possible. So similar wording, similar things you need to do. Again, logging into gives you information about uploading student settings, how to create rosters if you choose to do that. If you choose to print testing tickets, you can, but as a reminder, this just has the students' listed on it. So students should already know they're listed. They may not need a test ticket for them. The test ticket is not going to have a password to log in on it because the TA will create a session instantly and be presented an ID number on their screen. Once that ID number pops up, the kids will just type the ID number and log in. So this is an option if you want to print test tickets. You may want to for kindergartners or first graders if they don't know they're listed, but again, it just has the listed on the test ticket. They are not required. It also goes through different test setup processes in TIDE, so how to create and manage sessions, look up students, how to create test sessions. All of these slides have already been presented to you before. Just wanted to add these in here as a reminder. One thing I wanted to point out is in TIDE and with ELPT, we almost use the word appeals and testing irregularity as the same word. So if you're getting stuck on the word appeals, it doesn't mean the same as you would normally think. So an appeal is almost like a testing irregularity that is being sent in. So it could be that you had a student that got sick and they checked out, and the next day you need to unlock a session for a student. That would be something where an appeal would be created because they're doing something outside of the norm. They need to have you unlock the test. These slides go through creating appeals, the status of appeals as well. Again, these are all repeated slides. Reminders for the OTT. There is a TA user guide that's available. The OTT is available. This should be accessed using the web browsers that are linked here. There is an online tools training site that when you go to the ELPT portal. So students should be using the OTT, TA should be using it as well. And in the TA user guide, that will be the best resource for your TAs prior to testing to get them familiar with it. As another reminder, the Google Chrome site settings must be set to allow microphones for the speaking function of the OTT to work. There are also training modules that have been available in the ELPT portal. So if you wanted to play some of these for your school test coordinators or send them to them or use them in a session for something, feel free to do that. They're on all of these topics listed here. The ELPT webinar for teachers and EL specialists on the test happened in December, and so again, the presentation is linked here, the recording is here as well. Also linked you to the English Learner page on the LDOE website for other resources. The achievement level descriptors, assessment guide webinar, trainings, the FAQ, all of that is linked here for you as well, just a one-stop shop. Again, the OTT, the TA training that we did, the English Learners Library, the parent guides, they're available in English, Spanish, Arabic, and Vietnamese, and then the TA and TIE user guides are linked here as well. So this is a slide you have seen a million times, but it has a little change on it, and now it says ELPT. So if you want to print this out to give to your STCs, it is also linked in the library. We have a separate one for Insight and a separate one for ELPT. So the contact information for AIR is on here. Their hours are 7 to 7. Their phone number, email, and chat is linked here as well. So if you click on the link that says ELPT Technical Assistance Protocol, it will bring you to just a one-pager of this screen for you to send to your STCs in the event they need assistance during ELPT, and they will follow the same protocol as we do for other assessments. The student would tell the teacher or the TA, and they would tell the STC, then inform you and the technology coordinator, and then if you need us, you can contact AIR or LDOE. All right, moving on to Law 1 and LEAP Connect. And actually, I'll stop for just a second to see if there are any questions about this. The ELPT TAM is in the ELPT portal, and it is available to download. You will not receive a hard copy of this. For ACT, can I do online and paper in my district? Absolutely. You could have some schools that do online, some that do paper. You could have all of them do online or all of them to you. Question about the LEAP 2025 fall testing scores. So again, the CSV files were posted last week in eDirect, so if you're looking for those scores, they are in there. And then score reports, individual reports will be posted this week in eDirect as well. Yes, all students have been uploaded for ELPT, so they are already in the system. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Law 1 and LEAP Connect. So again, a lot of these slides are going to seem familiar because they are, but just wanted to pass them around again for you all. So our key dates, again, February 5th through March 16th is the testing window. Everything's available. So the OTT, the student response check, managing users, test setup, manuals are out. All of that is available for you. You will get your materials on the 26th and then you can start ordering additional materials the 29th. Just as a reminder, for Law 1, we are Law 1 Science for grades 4, 8, and 11 only. Also, as a reminder, all administrator booklets, student books, response documents, task descriptions, all of those things have security numbers. They're located on the back of the covers alongside the barcodes and materials. So you will find those on your documents. For administering the test for Law 1, students should have the opportunity to take all of the tasks. However, if a TA attempts at least 5 tasks in a content area and that student is not responding to any of the items, meaning they would have the question, get no credit for that question, the TA may stop testing. No score should be marked on the response document for the remaining items. That there is a difference if a student's just having a bad day, they should just try on another day. Is not responding to any item. So they would need to attempt at least 5 tasks within a content area in order for the TA. For Leap Connect, remember important thing for me today about Leap Connect, it is the DTA is the book to follow. So this is different than the test administrator manual. This is not the TAM. This is the directions for test administration, and this is what the TA uses for the entire test. They have instructions on every item what the TA is supposed to do. It gives the exact wording that is supposed to be used by the TA, the materials needed, and how to present each item to the student. So that means that the TA, before testing, up to 2 days before, that TA needs to review whatever assessment's coming up first in a controlled setting with the STC. That DTA still needs to be secured in whatever secure storage place they have at the school until testing begins. Even if the student and the TA text-to-speech in the system, the TA still uses the DTA. So they really have a choice with the text-to-speech. They can use the text-to-speech to read the questions to the student on the computer, or the TA reads the questions. Regardless of if they use text-to-speech, the TA must use the directions for test administration, and I'll show you why in just a second. As another reminder, for just grades 3 and 4 ELA, STCs will need to assign students by a verbal or a nonverbal ELA test. The reason why this is only for grades 3 and 4 is because only grades 3 and 4 have this session of the test. So there is a foundational reading session for grades 3 and 4 where students are reading. Grades 5, so grades 5 and up don't have to determine verbal or nonverbal in eDirect. But for grades 3 and 4 ELA, you'll see nonverbal or verbal forms. Student response check, again, this is right where the OTT is. So this is 3 questions that just ask kids to demonstrate how they communicate so that the TA knows how the student is going to communicate during the test. Hopefully the TA is familiar with the student and they know this, but this is provided in case there's a situation where a TA needs to determine their mode of communication, and this is short and sweet for a teacher to do with the student to determine how they respond. Also, if a student is unable to write due to his or her disability, the student can dictate orally or sign their responses to the TA, and then the TA will record them in the online form. There are directions on how to do this, and they are posted in eDirect. Also, as a reminder, there is an end-of-test survey. This is after each student's test that the TA will complete. It basically gives us feedback on the experience of each TA administering Leap Connect, but it's done for every student. So after the student finishes the session, the survey for the TA to complete, and then they will submit. There's also a document called Procedures for Assessing Students Who Are Blind, Deaf, or Deaf-Blind. This document is located in two places. One, the procedures are located in eDirect. The second version of this document will be mailed to you with your initial shipment, but it will include secure items. So we are not posting secure items in eDirect. We've removed those so you can access the same thing, plus to do before, during, and after the assessment, strategies for the TA, and then there's information for accessing the foundational reading items that I mentioned 3 and 4 and how to do that. Also, LEAP Connect Law 1 is one-to-one test administration, so it's an individually administered test. For LEAP Connect, if after attempting at least 4 tasks in a content area and the student is unresponsive, you may end the test. So real quick, for Law 1, it's 5 attempts attempted. For LEAP Connect, it's 4. Also for LEAP Connect, the online tools training is available, and the DTA, this document that I keep telling you is the most important thing, there is a DTA for the OTT in eDirect. So if a teacher is administering the OTT to a student, that means that teacher should be using the DTA with it, because you have to use the directions for test administration when administering the test. So we wanted this to be almost identical to the experience a student would get. So we have an OTT, and then we have a DTA for the OTT in eDirect. So I want to show you a sample of this, and I mentioned this earlier about why it is so important that the DTA is the main document that a TA will use. So each DTA, Directions for Test Administration, gives the exact wording of the items used by the TA, the materials, and guidelines how to present the items to the student. So on the left side, you see what a student would see on the online tools training. So it shows them information prior to the question and then the question and the answer choices. Notice how the DTA is different. It tells you a couple of things. First of all, it tells you the calculator is not allowed, so they shouldn't be getting one. It also has text in there that the TA needs to read or do. So for example, on the DTA side of the screen, the DTA would say, the item is about fractions. This rectangle is divided into 2 equal parts. Then it tells the TA to point to each part. So if I were the TA, I would be having my finger out and I would point to the gray shaded side and the white side. Then I would say, there is one part that is shaded. And then it tells me to point to the shaded part, so I'm going to point on the screen to the shaded part. Then I'm going to read, which circle shows 1 out of 3 parts is shaded? Point to each option, so I'm going to point to each one. And then it gives you directions for students that have visual impairments. It tells you what to read. So this is why the DTA is so important. It's not only giving them the scripts, but it is telling the TA what to do for each item. So it could be giving them a calculator, not giving them a calculator, pointing to each item, extra language to read to students with a visual impairment. It may also ask you to cover up something on the screen for them. So the DTA is the mega documents. These next few slides, again, are repeats. These are all of the things within eDirect that a DTC or STC can use during testing. So we have our testing statistics reports. All of those reports are listed here, and they are in the Status Reports tab in eDirect. They can access that student status dashboard that lets you know what's going on in all of your schools. For accountability codes, again, you'll wait to the very end of the testing window to do all of that coding in eDirect. Students who do not test must be placed in a test session for each subject and then apply that appropriate accountability code. Remember, you have to have documentation on file for why you're applying that accountability code. If you don't have a code, the student could have a result of having a 4.0 for each subject that they did not complete. These slides are also not new to you, so to make sure that your technology is ready for Leap Connect, remember you can click on Online Tools Training underneath Leap Connect, and if you log into the OTT and it starts reading to you, then you are good to go. You want to make sure that staff check at least one device per TSM to make sure everything is rocking and rolling. Again, our technology FAQ, this is also a familiar slide. These are frequently asked questions about technology, and there's also the technology user guide linked here. Remember, this document is definitely helpful to give to your school test coordinators so that they can troubleshoot prior to coming to you or the technology coordinator for the district. We also have our technical troubleshooting tips, and these next slides outline everything that is on there. So again, it gives common things that may happen and helps them troubleshoot. That way, less phone calls are coming to you all and they can feel more comfortable troubleshooting at the site. If they do need to call DRC, this is the information they need to have ready in order to have a more efficient call. So if they don't have some of this stuff, they may have to call them back before they get it. So you want to make sure everything here is ready for them to tell them on the customer service hotline. And again, you have seen this slide before, but this one is specific to Insight. The link here is the same link as the ELPT one, but it has DRC to print out and give to your need it. Nate, remember so some of the majority of you were not. If you were selected, you have been receiving information about this, but just wanted to remind you that it is around the corner and it will be done through tablet. They will be providing this for your students as they come to test. To make sure that students are ready, they do have a tutorial for students that they can use that's linked here prior to testing. All right, for Leap 360, just wanted to run through the resources that are available. As always, the K-2 formative tasks are available, diagnostics are available. The most recent update for interims is that the Form 2 for math is available for grades 3 to 8. So the only thing that still has to be grades 3 to 8, and that will be coming in a few weeks in mid-February. But the teacher access is available, so teachers can access those items. Also, some new social studies passages were added in Eagle for your social studies teacher in grades 3, 6, 7, and 8. I also wanted to remind you, if you are a new DTC, a new backup DTC, a new accountability contact, or a new backup accountability contact, we need your information through the contact update form. So all of these roles are on one form, so you just need to fill out the form and then check what your role would be. The superintendent's signature is now required. It must come from the superintendent's email account. But again, if you're already the DTC, we know who you are. We have everything in the system for you. You don't need to do this. This is only if a new person comes on board, we need to have their information. Also, end of January, early February are around the corner. So you can review the overview documents that are linked here. January 30th is in Baton Rouge, February 1st is in Harvey, February 7th in Lafayette, and February 8th in Ruston. There will be a LEAP 360 session if you're interested in attending that. As always, we give you information through our newsletters, weekly calls, and the assessment library. You can always email us at assessment@ or call us on the hotline for urgent issues. Also, just another little cheat sheet for you all. We have an assessments customer service one-pager that is now in the assessment library. This lists all of our assessments with their hours of operation for customer service, their emails, phone numbers, and any other information that would be important. It is a one-pager you can print out for everything. So it has K-3 stuff, ACT, CLEP, AP, LEAP 2025, ELPT. It has everything on one page so that you and your school test coordinators have that at a glance. Some next steps would be to make sure that training for ELPT and LEAP Connect has happened and they've used the OTT. You also want to be thinking about how to use the practice test by using the resources that are available as you're making district and school planning decisions. The ACT match-no-match lists will come this week. You also want to distribute the Fall High School LEAP 2025 score reports to those that need it and register for the collaboration events if you plan to attend. Our next monthly call will be February 20th. I hope you all have a great day. I don't see that many questions, and the ones that I see I think we've gotten to. But thank you for bundling up and listening to the call during the blizzard. I appreciate it.
This has been a presentation of the Louisiana Department of Education, copyright 2018, all rights reserved. For more information or to contact the Louisiana Department of Education on the web, go to www.louisianabelieves.com or call 1-877-453-2721.